Hey everyone, so today I'm actually going to go over Diamond 3 Raze players VOD just to give them some perspective on how they might improve their gunplay, their gameplay, their game sense, and just generally how to play with the team. I'm going to focus on a couple of key things. I don't like to kind of go into every single minute detail. I think I like focusing on just a couple of key themes from a VOD just to kind of get them on track. So the few things that I'm going to go over really are the crosshair placement and their gunplay. I'm going to go over not maximizing their utility enough across their comp and using that utility to benefit their team and themselves. And then I'm also going to be talking about entering sites without a plan and how that impacts both your team's ability to effectively push a site, but also your ability to push a site. Okay, so this is one example here of your gunplay mechanics. As you're pushing through, perfect crosshair, right? I mean, maybe like a fraction of a millimeter up. Obviously this wall is here, but it's very clear to me at least that your gunplay is good, it's sound, your crosshair placement is good, your ability to play with your team here, right? So a lot of people fail to kind of realize that if you're pushing back into a site like this when they've got control, it's important to make sure that you're playing with a teammate, you're kind of buddying up, especially if you're adding pressure here with the sky. So good job here. I really rarely does gunplay mechanics become a factor when we're talking about diamond and ascendant level players. It's difficult to even get there without solid gunplay mechanics. So well done there. This is another example here on 21. So I'll pause right here. Great first shot, first of all, just fantastic first shot. But the thing I want you to kind of pride yourself on is the fact that you don't shoot and then just spray all over here like most people would. A lot of people would generally tend to kind of spray this area here to see if they can maybe get a headshot through the wall or just wall bang them. Your first instinct is shoot, reset, and then immediately shoot again. It happens super quick there, but I'll play it again. Even with you getting head dinked there, right? So they might have had like maybe a bulldog or something. I'm not sure what gun they had. You're keeping your composure in gunfights, which is a huge factor. So again, you're not just spraying this area here and crouching. You're tapping, letting your vandal reset, and then you're firing again. So well done there. And then I think you even get a timing or a good kill on this omen. So of course there, if I could just play that back. So here your crosshair is a little low. However, it wasn't low for this ridiculous angle that Omen is holding. I mean, he's literally like on a pixel there. So I wouldn't blame you for hitting his body here, especially considering the weird position he's in. You were aiming more or less at head level, and you had to kind of reposition up to try and hit that weird angle. So again, gunplay solid, mechanics are solid. I wouldn't focus too much of your energy on that. Just keep doing what you're doing in that sense. I think you're okay there. Okay, so in this round, I just want you to focus on how utility is being used to clear B-long. Okay, so as I mentioned, having your boombot here with the sky that clears this area here is not doing much for you or your team, right? So let's think about how this plays out. You came in here, the sky flash already cleared basically all of this here, right? Then you throw your boombot and you peek before it and you just kept going. Your boombot basically did nothing, right? You cleared every angle and then you paused here. And I think your sky ended up at one point dogging from here. You satcheled. I mean, I suck at satcheling. I'm not a Raze main, but you satcheled into here. You had clove smoke back there, and you were able to get a pick, I think, on an omen right here. So all to say, you guys got site control and it worked fine. But again, putting your boombot where your sky is going that's one thing that I would take away from this round to not do. Don't use intel gathering utility where there's other intel gathering utility already being used. And then 2, ideally, you should be playing over here where your Cypher and your Reyna were, right? I don't think this lineup exists anymore where you like throw it up here and because the boom bot is so like it dies basically instantly. So like creeping up here, throwing this boom bot to cover your left side, and then trying to throw your nade onto the right side, I think is probably a better use of your time. So again, this just goes to this idea that Raze is unique in the sense that she is technically an entry fragger, but if you think about her kit, she can also be like a quasi initiator, right? So let's pretend for a second that this is like Sova coming up here instead of you, right? Sova would drone in, and then they'd basically get all of this control because of the drone. You're doing the same thing, you're just splitting between 2. Or even Breach, for example. Breach could, you know, throw an aftershock there and then flash in to get control. You're essentially getting intel for your team. I suck at Raze. And trying to clear this entire area so that your team can hold it. And then you can enter, right? You still have your satchels to enter here, right? So I think, again, going back to that point, don't use your util where there's other information gathering agents already at, and try to maximize the spread of what util you have. Okay, so this is just another example of maximizing your util, especially as Raze with her intel gathering abilities. I'll let it play out first.
I can feel it. Grenade!
Sova darted long B. Reyna's long B. Sova as well.
Probably playing the TP now, if just lurking.
It's just 2 I saw. They're in.
No, she TP.
Okay, so that's another good example of how you're not maximizing utility here to cover a site, right? So the way it played out is you and Reyna were kind of sitting right here. I think Sky was sitting here. If you looked at your mini map, right? So if you were looking at it the entire time, you would see pretty early on, I think an Omen kind of came somewhere short. And then you had a Cypher trip go off over here. You had a Reyna flash come into sight. And you and Reyna were kind of off over here already when all of that stuff was going off. But let me kind of explain, you know, why this round played out the way it played out for you all, and you ended up, I believe, losing the round. You didn't get a chance to maximize the utility on A to understand whether or not somebody was here. And what that did was cause a push and pull effect. So I've talked about this at length in another video of mine, in the Diamond and Ascendant video recently, where I talk about this concept of pushing and pulling on a site, or pushing and pulling on a map in general. What ended up happening here was you all got intel or no intel here, but you also didn't have intel showers, right? So there was a lot of stuff happening on B, but you needed to make sure that showers was clear before you could go back into B. Now here's what that means in this concept of push and pull. Because you didn't utilize your utility effectively and maximize the coverage of intel you can gather, you ended up getting pulled over to showers in order to confirm and check whether or not somebody is here, right? And this goes back to what I just showed as an example. You and Sky were both here. Sky's got every ability possible to clear all of A short here. Your Boombot is better served early round just coming out of showers, right? I mean, I don't care how you peek it. Just throwing it down somehow just to get that intel, and then coming back here and being ready to either fight A short if nothing happens in showers, or sprint to B if you get intel that nothing is showers and nothing is short with your Sky. That to me is the like quintessential response to how you should be playing Raze on this site if you're going to be playing with the Sky in the same site, right? Normally they should be kind of playing separate sites, unless you're using her for supporting utility to kind of push out somewhere. But what that ended up doing is you and Reyna, because you didn't put your Boombot down in showers, you had to come in here slowly. And while you all are here, right, again, Rain of
There.
Flash coming out here.
There.
Omen was showing up on your mini map. There
There.
was a Cypher chip coming over here. Your teammates were moving all over the place. There was so much action going on B, but you and Reyna are sitting here doing basically nothing, right? Not because, not in like a bad way. You just, there's nothing here. And an easy way to check that would have been just come over here,
Go get 'em.
toss this out. Okay, let's focus here. My boombot got
There.
nothing. Sky got nothing. Clearly, A short showers are not here unless they're cracked or weird and
There.
just sitting back here. You can instantly rotate now, right? And now, because of the fact that you got that intel faster than you did before, you and Reyna are not pulled into
There.
bathroom later in the round, and you're able to come here quickly and help your team faster, right? So again, this concept of utilizing your utility to really maximize the coverage within a map of intel that you can gather early round, right? Like there's this, there's really like realistically 4 phases of a map or of a round. If you're talking about pro play, the first phase would be that like early intel gathering type of round where you're really just trying to kind of see where people are. Like what's the structure of the enemy team? What are they doing? Where are they at? How many are in long? How many are in short? How many are showers? How many are hookah? You're just trying to really gather intel early round. Then there's that second phase of the round. Again, this is more in pro play. I wouldn't really consider this something in like diamond or ascendant lobbies, but there's that second phase of the round where you're trying to almost mid round and adjust based off that information, right? So you've gotten your intel early on. You are now trying to see if you have to adjust or if you don't need to adjust, right? There's that period of the entire round. Then there's the execute period, right? So again, this is not something I expect in diamond or ascendant lobbies where you like actually execute with like a proper plan. And then there's the post plan, right? What was happening here is in the early round,
There.
you didn't get the proper intel to make your adjustments
There.
in the mid round, right? That's essentially what I'm talking about is because you didn't maximize that coverage of your utility to get your intel early on, you didn't have a chance to make the adjustments necessary to make sure that their execute, which was happening on B, doesn't happen in a way that benefits the enemy team. It should have benefited you, right? So I'm hoping that that makes sense. Because again, generally speaking, Raze she's kind of this like weird initiator slash intel gathering duelist. I think she's really the only agent on the duelist side of the house that can get that type of intel for you. So, okay, so here's one last example.
Well, it's winnable. Say it. Say it with me. Say it with me. It's winnable. Oh yeah.
Grenade! Go get him.
All right, so 2 things here. One is kind of just a general order of operations thing with Raze's Boomba and her nade. And then 2 is this like a logical type of approach to the game and how you use your utility, right? So let's talk about the order of operations thing first. So you threw a nade before you threw a boombot, right?
Grenade!
So no intel's gathered. You use one of the most sight controlling pieces of utility in the game right off the
There.
bat. You don't even know if they're here. You aren't normally from an order of operations type of approach to Raze's utility. You generally speaking want to use your boombot first. If that catches somebody, then you can nade, right? However you want to nade, it doesn't matter. I'm not here to tell you where your nade should be or shouldn't be placed. You can look up the 5,000 TikToks and YouTube channels that help you do that. But you want to throw boombot first, gather the intel, and then nade based off of that if it's necessary. Now, digging a little bit deeper into that, right? As Raze, you have to be conscious of the fact that her nade is a space taking and space holding ability, right? So logically speaking, let's think through how you played this round.
Grenade!
You threw this out, it landed somewhere around here, and now this whole thing is yours, right? If you think about it from the defender's perspective, whether they're here or if they started way out over here, I mean, this is an edge case, right? But if they started over here and they walked over here, they're not even going to be here yet. So realistically, you're just looking at people that are here. You threw that nade,
There.
it landed here. They're not out yet because you took that space by way of a grenade. So they're either here peeking like this, or they're here peeking like this. As soon as you threw that nade, you kept them
There.
right here, right? No one's
Grenade!
pushing this. So they're here.
There.
They're going to be all back there. And then immediately you threw this.
Go get him.
That's not going to catch anybody, right? Because again, think about it from the defender's perspective. They just saw a nade come
There.
back here. Would you peek this as soon as the nade goes and start moving up instantly? Probably not. You would probably see that nade, think, okay, well, let's see if this Raze peaks. You know, let's see if maybe we can kind of sit here, hold the line, and see if we can get her to like peek it quickly and get a pick. They're not going to see that nade and then instantly start going, okay, let's push up here, right? They're going to respect it because they know somebody's here. So it's not just an order of operations issue. It's also an issue with how you're utilizing the utility to not just take the space, but then keep them there in a way that makes sense to your team. Again, you're not going to get anything with this because of the fact that they're all back here. So this here was just a wasted boom bot because you already at least kept the space with the grenade. So it's just something I noticed over the course of a few different rounds is the way that you use your utility. It's not maximized the way that it should be. And you can watch a ton of pro play to really try and gather information on how, you know, if Raze is your main, try to gather information on how Raze's boombot is used from map to map. And it's not going to translate one-to-one because, of course, professionals have a bunch of crazy setups and whatever. But I would be shocked if there's a pro meta or pro game where I see a Raze come out of hookah here, toss a nade, and then instantly check for intel after already taking that space with the nade, right? In this clip, I just want you to focus on how you're entering the site with your team or without your team.
Okay.
Throw my cam.
Satchel out.
Right there. Could be behind box.
Okay, so let's talk about how that played out for a second. I think, again, just talking about this idea that a Raze and a Sky probably shouldn't be pushing up belong together. You should probably be over here, maybe Clove pushing with the Sky, for example. But let's just kind of play with the round that we had, right? You pushed out to here. Again, you did the same thing where you didn't maximize utility. We've covered that at length. I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse. You boom botted out when the Sky Flash was already there. But something that you should try to consider as you're entering is this idea of making sure you're entering not just with a plan, but that you're telling your teammates what your plan is, right? And I totally understand how in some rounds that's not possible. And I think that's fair. Like, it's not always possible to tell them, to tell your team, hey, I'm going to satchel out and I'm going to land right here, right? In some cases, maybe there's a killjoy grenade here or molly that stops you from doing that. Maybe there was an omen blind that came in from here. Maybe you got breach stunned or whatever it is, right? There's tons of reasons why a plan that you originally had doesn't go the way that you had or wanted it to. But for lack of a better term, it's your responsibility as the entry fragger. So as the Raze and as the Reyna, it's both of your responsibilities to lead your team onto the site. So what do I mean by that? I don't mean that it's your job to call the whole strat for the whole team. Like, it's not your responsibility to be like, all right, Reyna, I want you to do this, flash in here. I want Cypher to put a trip down over here and then Chem into hookah. And then I want Clove to smoke here and do smoke here. Like, it's not your job to do that, right? Generally speaking, in ranked, it's not really anybody's job to do that. It's just you work with what you have and you work as best as you can together. But if we're talking about being able to control whatever you can control, as a Raze player here, you should be calming, and apologies if you did calm this, I couldn't hear your calm. So it's very possible you said everything that I'm about to say and all of this is moot, but here we are. It's your responsibility as Raze before you satchel in to tell your team, hey, I'm going to satchel in to B and I'm going to try to land either near double box here, or I'm going to try to land back B, or I'm going to try to work my way into elbow. Why is that important? You'll see here when you landed, so you ended up kind of taking this route. You landed right here, somewhere around here. When you landed, you had this angle to take care of. You had this angle to take care of, this angle to take care of, this angle to take care of. You had someone peeking out potentially from here, somebody peeking out potentially from here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of sight that you have to clear when you get there, right? Of course, you can do some of that as you're flying in the air, but generally speaking, one person clearing all of that is the worst. So I say that to say it's not your job to tell people what to do, but if you just told people I'm doing this, maybe your clove thinks, you know what, before he does that, I'm going to smoke off elbow and I'm going to smoke off maybe right here. This is a terrible smoke, but just to give you an example, maybe your sky says, you know what, I'm going to bird right here and make sure that nobody can peek him out. And now if they do that, so if clove smokes here, if sky flashes here, you only have to focus on this angle, and then you can slowly work your way through the progression. Okay, you have smoke back here, you don't have to focus on that. You have smoke right here, you don't have to focus on that. This is clear. I can now work my way into backside because sky just flashed that and it bought me some time. Now this is completely clear. Okay, I can work my way back into this area, see if anything is there. It's clear, right? Like, it's a progression-based system. And if you tell your teammates what your plan is, then they can help formulate their own plan to help support you. So that's one thing. I think the second piece of this round is when you push onto this site here, I want you to be very conscious of the fact that your team is not ready or was not ready when you did this. So you went from here to here, and before you started that, your Reyna, your Cypher, and your Clove were still stuck deep into like hookah hallway right here. They were still camming out. They were still flashing. I think there was actually one person in hookah. They were trying to get control of hookah here. So when you push out, your team's not ready to support you, right? They're not even close. They still have to clear all of this. Your Sky still has to help with any utility that she can. She was probably more ready than the other three, but you don't know what you're walking into yet, right? She's got dog. She could very easily dog before you satchel, so that you can get intel. Again, this progression-based system. Hey, this is clear. Hey, this is clear. This is clear. And now when you satchel onto site, you know those are clear because the dog came out and cleared it. And so again, I think the important thing to keep in mind here, it's two issues with the way that I saw you enter into some of these sites. One is not telling your team what your plan is so that they can formulate their own plans around it. And then two is not making sure that your team is fully ready before you start your entry in order to help support you. Those are the two biggest things I noticed on your entries into site. And I'll show you in a couple different rounds how that affected the rounds as well. All right, so this is another example of entering without a plan.
Cypher camping.
Grenade! Here comes the party!
Okay, so that was another perfect example of entering a site without a plan. And this was actually heightened by the fact that you used your ultimate. So let me kind of explain. This is kind of like a culmination of a bunch of different things that I've been talking about. One of them is this idea of not maximizing your utility. The second one is entering without a plan. And then the third one, I think, is a little bit of panic. It's not really like a theme or anything. Like it was very rare that you panicked, but you definitely did panic towards the end there. Once you got hit with the trip, hit with the no-man, I mean, it's hard not to panic in that instance. You're kind of stuck in no man's land. But let me explain why that panic set in a second. So what you ended up doing was you were here. The round basically just started a few seconds ago. You pull out your ult. You come all the way out here. You get hit by trip. You get hit by a cage. You get hit by a flash. And so you're stuck out in no man's land. Like none of your team is available to trade you. You're just kind of stuck out here by yourself. So of course somebody's going to come here, get a pick. And that's what causes the panic, really, is the fact that you're alone. Like, nobody can help you in this instance. And so the panic sets in because there's nothing that you can do about it. Like, you just got out utilitied, if that's even a word. So that's one thing. But let's avoid that for a second. Let's talk about, again, this idea of entering without a plan, and not realizing where your teammates are before you do that plan, if you do come up with one. When the first thing that you did here was throw a nade down over here. So if I could just use this thing, you used your nade here, right? So we talked about this earlier in the video, this idea that when you throw your nade, you are effectively taking this space. So this space now, all of that right there, no one's going to be there, right? Because you just threw a nade. Then after that, you pull out your rocket, your ultimate, you come over here, and then your first thought is, I'm going to clear 2 angles here. You saw nothing over here. So your first instinct was shoot rocket this way. I want to draw your attention to that last bit, right? So you're stuck right here. You just naded this, took all of this space with your nade. So they're not here. And then you shot your rocket somewhere along this wall. To be fair to you, right? So not to like completely drag you down in this. They could have definitely, like after you threw that nade, they could have definitely kind of sat behind this wall right here and maybe tried re-peeking. But no one's going to do that the minute that they hear Raze say whatever her line is, right? The minute they hear that line and they know that you're down here because you just threw a nade, they're going to sprint back here somewhere or just kind of tuck away in this little corner right here. They're not going to be pushing back in to an area you just naded as soon as they hear that line. So audio cues are huge there, of course. But I also want you to pay attention, not just to the fact that you didn't maximize your utility here by throwing this nade and then also ulting in the exact same area you threw your nade. I want you to pay attention to the fact that when you do come out here and you did enter, because there was no plan for how you were going to use that ultimate, other than I'm going to use it and I'm going to come out here and the first person I spot, I'm going to shoot it at. None of your teammates are in an area to do anything about it. So again, that's why that panic set in, right? You got hit by the trip, you got hit by the flash, you got hit by the cage. Your Cypher was here. He was the only one in even a remote position to try and help. But even then, he has to sprint now out here with his gun out and try to see if he can get a pick somewhere. Your Reyna and your Clove are out here fighting like 2 or 3 people in showers. And your Sky is doing God knows what. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why she's all the way back here. It's kind of insane that she's still back here this early into the round. She should be either pushing with these guys or she should be helping you up here. So, her bad there, but your teammates are nowhere near you. And so when you think about what you're doing with not just with your utility, but especially with Raze's ultimate, you have to not just come up with a plan on what you're going to do, but again, you have to wait until your team is ready to accept that plan. You can't just call the plan that you're going to execute and do something and then expect others to immediately be ready. It's going to take time for them to process that information, get into position, clear other angles, make sure that they're ready for it. And then once they're ready, and I saw you coming, like I saw you, talking in the chat. Once you think that they're kind of close enough, you can ask them, hey, are we ready? I'm going to do this now. 3, 2, 1, go. You want to be vocal and you want to be proactive about it, because otherwise you're going to end up in this exact same situation almost every single time. Your team's not ready. You end up in a position where utility is getting dumped on you. You're alone in no man's land. You start to panic. And then because of that panic, you get instantly killed. And there's no ability for your team to do anything about it, which can set forward that idea of teams kind of spiraling into this toxic conversation back and forth. Hey, Raze, why did you go out there by yourself? You were all alone. We didn't have a way to trade you out. And then you say, well, I told you I was going to do this. And so why didn't you follow me? All of that can be avoided if you just sit here, right? It's still like the first 5 or 10 seconds of the round. Just sit here, say, hey, everyone, I'm going to ult I'm going to come out of A short with it, and I'm going to see if I can get a pick somewhere in U-Haul, right? That's my goal, is see if I can get a pick U-Haul. So if that's your goal and that's what you calm, your goal now is to say, okay, I'm going to wait for you guys to clear bathroom. I'm going to wait for Cypher to kind of come up with me, and then maybe ult a little bit closer, right? See if you can use your like wait for Sky to dog or flash or something, right? So that you guys can take control of this area here. And then from here, you can say, okay, I'm going to ult out. Are you guys ready? Yes. Your Reyna and your Clove might be all the way up here at that point, so they can apply pressure going this direction. You can apply pressure going this direction. And now your Cypher and your Sky have an easy enter into site, right? Because this pressure being caused here from Reyna and Clove forces them either to the back cubby here or back behind triple, and they can still see that. Your Cypher can come here safely, plant. Your Sky can kind of hold this angle for him here, and then you've got control of U-Haul now. Again, that's like an optimized, perfect example of the world, and it maybe didn't fall that way, but you give yourself a fighting chance, and that's what's important. You have to call your plan, and then you have to wait for your team to be ready to accept that plan. All right, I hope that was helpful. Appreciate you giving me a chance to review the VOD, and let me know if you need any other help or if you have any questions, man.